The summer sun scorched down on the luxury Sapphire Grand Hotel, one of the most elite establishments in the city. Inside its marble walls, the air conditioners buzzed like usual, except in one critical suite. On the 14th floor, where the hotel's VIPs stayed, the AC had failed. And not just in any room. This was the presidential suite, currently occupied by none other than Richard Alton, billionaire CEO of a global investment firm. A perfectionist by reputation and a control freak by nature, Alton did not tolerate discomfort or delay. The hotel staff panicked. Multiple technicians had tried to fix the unit, but none succeeded. Pressure built on the general manager, who had run out of options. That's when one of the junior staff members quietly suggested a name, Meher, the freelance mechanic they sometimes called when things really got messy. "She's fast, cheap, and weirdly good," he said. Within 20 minutes, Meher arrived, covered in grease, wearing worn-out overalls and an old baseball cap that barely contained her thick, curly hair. The staff hesitated. She wasn't what they wanted a guest like Richard Alton to see, but they were out of time. The heat inside the suite was rising, and so was the CEO's temper. Meher entered the suite quietly, toolbox in hand, eyes scanning the room quickly. She said nothing to the suited staff members lining the walls or the assistant pacing near the door. She simply went to the unit and started working. Richard Alton sat on a velvet couch, fanning himself with a magazine. He looked up, expecting a report. Instead, he saw Meher's boots, then her stained shirt, then her face, focused, calm, and unbothered. "Who the hell are you?" he snapped. Meher glanced at him briefly. "I'm here to fix your AC." "You?" He raised an eyebrow. "You look like a car mechanic." "I am," she said, opening the panel. "Among other things," Alton scoffed. "Well, this should be entertaining." For the next 20 minutes, Meher worked silently while the room filled with awkward tension. She moved with precision, adjusting valves, checking the circuit board, resoldering a couple of connections. Her fingers were quick, and sure, she didn't fumble or guess. Alton kept glancing at her, as if waiting for her to fail. Then, with a soft click, the unit hummed back to life. Cool air whooshed into the room. The silence that followed was thick with surprise. She stood up, wiped, her hands on her rag, and said, "You're good now, but your thermostat wiring is outdated. You should replace it within 6 months or it'll go out again." Alton stared at her. "Wait, that's it?" "That's it," she said, packing. "Up, stay a second." His voice had changed, more curious than annoyed now. "You sound educated." She gave a half-smile. "I am. You work with your hands, but you speak like a professor." "I get that a lot." "What's your story?" he asked, leaning forward. Meher hesitated. "I don't think you really want to know. I just watched you fix a system my best techs couldn't handle. Now I'm interested." She sat on the edge of a low table, brushing dust from her palms. "I was supposed to be someone else," she began. "I grew up in Istanbul, but I've lived all over. Rome, Tokyo, Dubai, Lahore, Johannesburg, Paris. My father was a diplomat. I grew up in embassies and boarding schools. I spoke 7 languages by the time I was 14. I was on track to join the Foreign Service." Alton blinked, processing. "So what happened?" "My mother died in a car accident when I was 16, she said quietly. "My father resigned, fell into a depression, and within a year, we were broke. We moved back to Karachi. I couldn't afford university anymore, so I did what I had to do, got a job fixing things." "You taught yourself?" he asked, clearly stunned. "Mostly. I liked working with machines. They make sense when people don't. And people stopped making sense after my mom died." Alton sat back, silent for a moment. Then, "You speak 7 languages?" She nodded. English, Urdu, Arabic, French, Japanese, Turkish, and Italian. He looked down, then laughed. A rare, genuine laugh. You just shattered every stereotype I had about mechanics. I tend to do that, she said. Alton was quiet for a moment longer, then stood and extended his hand. I misjudged you. Badly. Thank you for fixing my AC. But more than that, thank you for reminding me that talent has no uniform. Meher took his hand, firm and unapologetic. You're welcome. The next day she received a call from Alton's office. He was hosting an international business conference at the same hotel and requested her as the tech supervisor for the entire event. She was stunned. She had never managed an event of that scale, but they insisted. The CEO said if anyone could handle it, it's you. The event was massive. Delegates from over 40 countries with complex AV systems, lighting setups, simultaneous translation booths, and more. Meher led a team of 12. She solved problems before they happened, spoke to each delegate in their own language, and ran the show with quiet command. People thought she was part of the senior management. No one imagined she had walked in as a mechanic just days before. After the event, Alton called her to his office. I want to fund your education, he said. Anywhere you want to go. You're one of the smartest people I've met, and I'm not letting the world waste that. Meher was stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes. And someday, help someone else who reminds you of you. She did say yes. With his support, Meher enrolled in an international engineering program. Years later, she completed her master's in sustainable energy systems from Germany. She started her own company, Fixer, which trained women in low-income neighborhoods to become certified mechanics, electricians, and technicians. Her story spread across platforms. News outlets called her the multilingual mechanic turned mogul. But she never cared about the spotlight. What mattered to her was the network of women she helped lift out of poverty, one tool and one skill at a time. She would often return to the Sapphire Grand Hotel, not as a worker, but as a guest speaker, invited to inspire other young entrepreneurs. Every time she entered, she wore the same grease-stained cap. Not because she needed to, but because it reminded her of who she was and how far she had come. In one of those events, a young girl came up to her nervously and said, "They all say I won't amount to anything, that I'm too poor, too quiet, too different." Meher smiled and placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Then you'll surprise them, just like I did." Moral of the story. Your outer appearance doesn't define your intelligence, your voice, or your worth. People may judge you by your clothes, your job, or your background, but your skills, your heart, and your perseverance will speak louder than any stereotype. Talent is everywhere. It just needs a chance.